NBA tournament strategy. This has been a massive topic for content for years and years and years. And I think most of the content that you have seen on tournament strategy is no longer all that valid. Now, I'm not speaking for my content personally, but I am speaking in general because things have changed in this industry. We have so much more information now that we need to reevaluate the things that we think. And I'm going to hopefully do a little bit of that for you here. I want to start on the topic of ownership because I think it's the most important piece to everybody. Everybody knows that you can just play Nikola Jokic and Steph Curry and Anthony Davis, these good guys. No, there's no I don't want to say there's no strategy to that, but like everybody understands the plays, so to speak. But ownership is probably the thing that gets misunderstood the most for tournaments. You are going to hear a lot of people want to run away from chalk. Highly owned plays on a slate, you just go to the opposite. That advice at this point in time now could not be more incorrect. And anybody that is telling you that you need to do that is giving you bad information. Individual player ownership means very, very little to your lineup construction for the contest you're playing. I don't really care the ownership of any individual play. I care what the ownership looks like for the entire lineup, for the contest that I am trying to enter. But when people will talk about, oh, this guy's heavily owned, I'm not going to have any. That's a weird strategy to take, and I'll explain why. And our NBA Sims tool is going to be the best thing that you could look at in order to really see what this information means. We don't have ownership yet for this first slate, but I'm just going to give an example. Let's say Nikola Jokic, who we have with the highest boom percentage for the slate, is 60% owned. Let's just say that right away. Whether you think that's high, low, over-owned, under-owned, it really doesn't matter off the top of like when you start to build your lineup. Let's say you run our NBA Sims tool and see this. You can build 150 lineups with Nikola Jokic in it that project with a positive ROI. You can build 150 lineups with no Nikola Jokic and get to a positive ROI. You can do either one of those two things at the extreme. Full lock button, full fade. Both of those situations can provide you 150 lineups that project positively before we get to lock. So there's not an immediate spot to look at and say, I don't want to play that guy. You can do that. You can make that manipulation, but you do not have to. There's a reason that the highest owned plays are the highest owned plays. It's because they're the best plays, and it's because they're the plays that are most frequently going to succeed. Those are the plays that I like to play. I like succeeding. I don't want to guess on a 2% owned guy. Now, maybe that's the last guy I put in my lineup to be a little bit different. I'll look through the sim tool to use that. But this is going to be the same principle as our lineup generator. Go check out that tool in that video if you want a little bit more interesting information, because you're going to get lineups that can be contrarian with 5 chalky plays in it. That's not really the problem. It's the way that all of the ownership works together. So let's say you're going to get into the big 150 max GPP, the big contest for every day. On DraftKings, I think it's called the fadeaway. Maybe that's FanDuel. It's been too long. I've been talking about baseball and football too much. Let's say you're getting in the big contest. You're shooting for that 100K. It's a $15 entry or whatever it ends up being. You're trying to win that contest. The first thing that you immediately do should not be running away from ownership, even though that might be the prevailing wisdom. Build the lineup that you think is best. Our lineup generator is going to help. Our player compare tool is going to help. Build the lineup that you think is best, and then think to yourself, well, is this chalky? Is this contrarian? Do I only have the top 8 guys in ownership? Because at that point in time, you're starting to compete with a little bit too many people. What I like to do, if you want to think about building these lineups from scratch, now this is not a hard and fast rule, but it should logically help you to get there. Let's say you build out a cash lineup to start, or you take the optimal lineup to start. That's going to be a very popular lineup. It's probably going to end up duplicated in big contests. That's okay. What you should really think about doing is making a 2 or 3 person change to that lineup to lessen your ownership, but maybe still get somebody that has a relatively high ceiling. Give up a 50% owned Nikola Jokic to drop down to a 25% owned Kevon Looney and then pay up elsewhere. I'm just going based on guys that are on the screen right now. But if you start from a baseline of a extremely highly projected median lineup with relatively high ownership, pivoting off of two of those spots will start to build you the tournament lineup you are looking for. You do not have to run away from ownership in every single spot in the lineup. That's just not going to be necessary. 2 swaps, maybe 3, and you are going to build out that lineup. And then you can go right back to the beginning. If you're a hand builder, if you're trying to do, a 3 max, a 5 max, even up to 20, if you're trying to do that by hand, just pivoting 2 to 3 spots off the optimal lineup is going to put you in a fantastic spot, at least to start. But my main takeaway for you guys is don't be afraid of ownership. There are positive ROI lineups to lock button players or to fully fade players. Either direction, every slate, no matter what, you will find them. There are way more combinations of lineups than you're expecting. So don't be afraid to play highly owned guys. You want to know why I really believe that? Go check out Lineup Study at Fantasy Cruncher. It has the results of all of the contests that have existed for a couple years now. Go click on some of those high-level contests and go see what the 150 max players are doing with highly owned plays. There's a reason they're highly owned. Everybody's getting to them. Everybody's playing them. You're making the changes elsewhere. Maybe you do fade the 2 highest owned guys in a tournament. That just allows you to get everybody else at the top and not have to go all the way down to the bottom. Just immediately being different in one spot might just be enough when you swap out that heavily owned Jokic type guy. But use the tools that exist out there. Use our lineup generator to try and manage ownership, see the relationship between fantasy points and ownership. Use the Sims tools if you have it. That's going to be the best situation for you. You're going to get the expected ROI information for players, for entire lineups, and you'll be able to see if you want to fully fade someone, you can still put together a package of lineups that project positively. Or I want you guys to go look at Lineup Study and Fantasy Cruncher and study what other professionals are doing. The names that you see at the top of tournaments regularly, go study what they are doing in, punching the microphone, in large field competitions. Because if you can see that the ownership for the highest owned guy is 70%, but the 150 maxers played him in 80%, that should twist the dials in the head a little bit and let you know, I don't necessarily have to run away from ownership. The goal is to be unique, but not too unique that you never succeed. That's the high and low for tournament strategy nowadays. Make sure you're playing the best plays, pivot in 2 to 3 spots. That's the simple way to look at this. But we're going to have breakdowns for our lineup generator. That's going to basically, you click a button. If you like that lineup, click save. If you don't, click discard. Click discard. Another one will just pop right up. You could swap players out, move them all around. We have the lineup generator if that's the tool you're looking for. The Sims tool will be the most information you can find for the NBA if you're trying to build out tournament lineups. But finally, if you're just a hand builder, a 1 lineup at a time person, our projections table, our ownership, and the boom bust tool that I have on the screen right now, you can get to wherever you need to be. Build out what you think is the best lineup, make 1 pivot, make 2 pivots, and right away you should be good to go with a high quality tournament lineup.